as it always rolls, and we are
Yeah.
live. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Episode 3, the final episode for the single short pools. We are joined today for it'll be the first time for you guys, but at least our 6th attempt at getting
Yep.
this recorded properly. So, as I think Roark has stated one time in the past, if he looks like he knows exactly what he's talking about and what's coming, it's because he's seen these fights intimately way too many times. How are you, sir? Thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, no problem. I had a lot of fun each time I find something new, and it's been a blast.
Good. Well, try not to waste anybody's time for the 8th time. Let's see if we can make it through this particular recording. We're going to hop right in. New Mike and Bleys are coming in for this first particular fight. Some of you guys may have seen this one already in a TikTok. Rourke, you just go ahead and say whatever you'd like about the fights, man. Commentate as we go along, and we will
Yeah, so
come
this
back
is this is a real nice fight here. We got a little bit of early on range gauging, and then Blaze without outside step and takes the outside shot. It's real nice. He sets it up with that inside shot. Try and keep the hands low and trying to return to the outside. That one was Simo, I believe. And here we see these pawing shots again, and this is to try and keep your opponent back and try and draw out a shot. See here it works, and we'll see Blaze take the win. Here we're looking at this. He steps in with that inside, and that slow-mo outside, you get a clean look at that fake towards the inside, and it draws out New Mike's hand, the outside step, and that beautiful lunge, and just takes that outside lane.
Tell me about this outside step you're talking about. So he's actually coming outside to draw out the guard of New Mike, so he can come around his guard. Is that what you're saying?
So when he steps in, he's got a slight hand fake that brings New Mike's guard in, and he's stepping to the outside of New Mike's leg positioning, and this allows for him to get a better angle on that outside arm. So even if New Mike didn't pull his hand in as much as he did, he would have been out positioned by the footwork, and he gets a better angle on that outside arm. It just makes it a lot harder to defend, especially against wrap shots. And it's just good footwork positioning. And we see him repeat the process a couple of times, but you kind of want to step to that outside. And a real good saying is the hands hide the feet. So Blaze's shots are trying to hide what positioning he's trying to get on New Mike. And, he does a really, really good job at doing it. These pawing shots are another good example. Ties up the hand. In single sword, you see a lot of offense and defense. They have to be together. Your only offensive option is your only defensive option, unless you go for these arm trades, which they're risky, but they pay out if you do the right trade.
It's a good series there. Blaze picking up the win over New Mike. This fight is going to be Haliax on the left in the blue and black, Vashiran on the right in the white and black.
So Haliax, you can tell, is a little newer of a fighter just based on his stance, and this is where leg positioning really is important. That lower squat makes them susceptible to minimal movement, and here we see him overcommit on a stab and the exit chop, sending him home. You notice that Haliax exit, and he gets pressed hard, and he loses an arm for it. And here we see some pawing movement and a hard committal step. It's a Simo, but we start seeing them respect each other a little bit more and slow down the fights.
You'll have to excuse our cameraman, Mike Brodeur. He is a podcast guy out in the St. Louis area who came in and just picked up a camera and started filming for us. This is the first time LARPing anything, so he asked kind of what was going on there. That's what they were kind of explaining to the camera guy what was happening. Trying to do that social media content while actually filming the tournament at one time. Doesn't always work out, but we appreciate him stepping up and doing exactly what he did. Helped us out big time by getting this recorded.
So we still see these range-finding shots coming in and out. And back what I was saying in the last fight, that arm block trade, if you're able to get it, you can trade your offhand for a win. in, and this looks like what happens. And makes an easy victory. But here we can see a lot of the footwork stances where how low in a squat he is. He doesn't really have an exiting option, and it makes it hard for him to cover that sword side hip, or in this case, ribs, and he misses the hand block.
Looks like we got right back to that same fight again. I apologize. New Mike versus Paolo for this one.
And both are very solid fighters. Paolo, you can see that he's got a much tighter stance. We see New Mike trying to paw at it. They're just feeling each other's range out, trying to test the waters, see who's going to respond with what. And then we see that hard block to the outside by Paolo. It's very nice. He goes to move in and try and take advantage of it, but he doesn't seem like he feels confident in that shot, so he backs back out. Here they are trying to reset the fight, try and make sure they don't make any mistakes. Going back to these pawing actions, the overcommittal outside wrap, and he immediately gets punished by Paolo. That's one of those things you gotta watch out for in single sword, is you can't be too committal on a lot of your stuff. Otherwise, you'll put yourself in a bad position, and if your opponent is ready, he or she will be there to punish you.
So a good stab there by New Mike. I believe that Paolo had declared that he was late, so I believe we're 1-1 now.
Yes. And here we see, like I said, the slowing down of a fight, really not trying to get into each other's range, trying to draw out a shot so you can get that block strike drill going. A lot of people in single sword rely heavily on block strike. It's a solid option. But if you start rowing the boat, whoever's going to throw off time is going to take that W.
Tell me a little about the overcommittal you were talking about here.
So you see New Mike here deeply lunging in. If you look at Paolo's stance, it's still relatively in his neutral stance, which allows him to step back in after these blocks. Whereas New Mike has to wait until his weight shifts fully onto his front leg before he can push back off. And there's that lag. And that lag is what's going to get you killed. In his shot's late, he indicates it. But that's where we start seeing people fall apart, is overcommittal steps. And, Paolo lost that fight for the same reason. He lunged in after a stab, and that stab lingered, so he just skewered himself on that one.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like he attempted to block it out with an arm block. It connected arm and leg, I believe, and that's the call he made. But, yeah, it's real clean fights by both of them. But that footwork advantage going to Paolo, and Paolo taking the win overall.
Vashiran and New Mike on this particular fight. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to see a lot of rubbing and racing. At least on one, the fighters deciding to restart the fight. And keep in mind, I think there's 5 or 6 shots thrown at one time, and realize that we're watching this in real time at the moment. But when we go back and start cutting this down, it's at 1/5 speed, which is very slow.
Yeah. And, a lot of fighters, there'll be a grimy exchange, and I've been in these positions, and it's just like, oh man, that was gross. Like, neither of us want to take any credit for any victory, and so we'll end up just being like, look, let's just call this a wash. We'll restart it and actually pretend like we know how to fight. Here we see some of those reaching, exiting shots, which benefits people who are willing to exit and punishes those who are high committal on reaching stabs or reaching shots. And see both of them doing this deep lunge steps. New Mike losing to a stance change and leaving that lead leg out there ready to get picked. It's looking like they're testing the waters again. Stepping in, New Mike trying to pressure, and then gets that arm pick. Oh, takes it to shoulder. Clean W. But that's where we start seeing people who are stepping in out of time. you run the risk of getting caught on that shoulder shot.
A little choppy at the moment. I apologize.
Hey, chops are my favorite shot. Not my favorite for video though.
All right, let's
But
go back.
is this a
This is
gross
the one that
engagement?
this is the one they reset. We'll take a look at it here real quick, but just know that there were 5 or 6 shots being thrown here, and not only does the Reeve doesn't call anything gone, both fighters are happy to take the reset. So yeah, it looks like
Here's where it could be a late the arm block. Yeah. And one thing that if this is a fifth of the time, it might have already been in motion, and a lot of people are willing to just be like, man, I want a cleaner fight. Both fighters probably feeling happy that they called that refight because you know anything could have happened.
right.
And then see that lead leg swap. We'll see that leg get picked
Yeah, down
as
an
he
arm,
steps in.
and then like you said, commits with the leg and gets it too far forward. I mean, there's nothing he can do at that particular point with it. Let's go ahead
Yeah.
and that's it for that particular pool. We're going to do 2 pools tonight instead of 1. So give me a second here while I switch this over to the other set of pools.
And while that's happening, one thing that you can see in that last fight is there was a level change in order to pick that leg, and dropping that shoulder and getting into a lower stance, there are advantages to it. So I don't want to say that like a low stance is always bad. There are advantages to it, but you just have to understand getting back up into a neutral position so you can still have that mobility is key.
Right. First up on this particular fight is going to be Feign and Spartan. Feign, Spartan, Bino, Turek Fen, Boromir, I think are pool contenders in this one. Homori Khan is our Reeve for this pool. Adam Michael in the background, one of the folks running this tournament. Go ahead, I'll let you.
Yeah. So in the first fight, we see an arm block for a body trade. Not the best for Spartan. Spartan immediately starts taking a more exiting position and definitely wins that exchange. Start taking picks. It might have been a Simo, I believe. So they tap out. They are now still gauging range. Spartan taking the aggression, easy block, and comes back out. They're trying to keep this picking and trading range, and it goes in favor of who's the guy in black again?
Sir Feyne. Well, they're both in black. Spartan is with the red pants. Feyne is in the black and white tunic.
Yeah, Feyne really relied on his arm blocks to take that win, and Spartan didn't adapt to taking more shallower shots and playing a little safer. He was willing to trade the blocks, and Feyne taking advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Here, Feyne, I think, misses the double tap on this one after Spartan gets a great block on that particular shot.
Yeah. And then once again, we see a level change by Feyne to take that lead leg. Spartan willing to get in a power stance and leave his legs exposed.
This is going to be, I think, Bino versus Boromir. Let me let my computer catch back up to itself here. Bino in the maroon and gray, Boromir in the blue. Boromir being primarily a dag fighter, that's going to be important here in just a second for this second kill that Bino picks up.
There it is.
Yeah, there's no. We allowed for the magic switch here, and I'm sure Boromir was playing as they do in his particular game of not allowing, magic switch not being a legal thing. The double tap from Bino.
So one thing that Bino is really good at is pressing the aggression here. And we see, if we compare the stances, Bino is in a much better power stance. His shoulders are less forward until the shot actually lands. But Boromir is hyper committed to these engagements. and Bino is doing solid hand trades for arm, and immediately following these up with double taps. And we see it there, uh, him finishing up that kill because of a dropped sword, maybe a game clarification issue
Hmm.
happening there.
Turek Finn versus Feyne. We know Feyne from a previous fight. Turek Finn in the green and black, a very wily fighter. Uh, Fun to watch. I,
Yeah,
I think lots of movement.
he really likes playing outside of that range and trying to get the opponent to commit. He jumped in there and got that lead leg after an arm pick in the first engagement. Here we see Feyne trying to press the aggression, maybe getting a little impatient. Uh, Trading a block for an arm, not the greatest of choices, but Feyne still pressing in, playing safe. Ends up getting that kill. And here we see him step in and do a stance change off of a lunge. Um, Turek did not pay attention to what shoulder was leading, so on that lunge, he was able to hide some of his range and just take a stance change on that last fight.
Both
Boom.
getting these excellent, excellent hand blocks from both fighters here
Yeah.
on that
And
first.
and this is where Turek's wiliness really pays off because he does get that leg pick to finish out that fight. And then this is the next fight, I believe.
Yeah,
Boom.
this will be
And here's where Feyne starts leading with that offside shoulder. And when he lunges in, Turek, he hesitates at the end of that lunge, right? And then we'll see him here plant, and this is where the stance change comes in and really throws him for a loop.
mm-hmm.
And he gets
Turek's
cleaned up
unable to
for it.
back up anymore. Yeah,
Yeah. That's a really good footwork move by Feyne. Some of the drawbacks to doing that is if someone catches on and they counter step in with you, you're leading with that shoulder, and you run the risk of getting picked before your stance change can come in.
right. Bino versus Spartan on this one again. Bino in the gray, Spartan in the black.
Bino does a really good job in that first fight of pressing in and being hyper aggressive off that tap. Uh, and he comes in and he does it a second time, but it doesn't necessarily pan out for him. He gets both his arms taken off. Spartan doing a good job exiting there. And we see him playing Bino playing a little more reserved and does a perfect exchange there. That's kind of what you want in an ideal block strike or ideal single sword situation. Uh, you'll see him throw in on that last fight to try and draw out an outside wrap, and then he cleanly blocks it and returns in under that sword, and it is chef's kiss, beautiful.
Chef's kiss. Yeah. No, this is the first exchange here.
Yeah, and so you'll notice that Bino is already starting to swap. When he commits to that step and shot, he's already expecting to lose his lead hand, so he's going for this kill for that chop leg before Spartan is really ready to do anything. He gets the stick in his hand, and he's still probably processing what to do next.
This is going to
And
be this is one of my TikTok clips here with Homori Khan coming out behind Homori Khan, and then we're going to see a nice shot from the fighters here. But talking about this one, Spartan picking up the kill here,
yeah,
catching the chest of Bino in that particular one.
so one thing that about that fight in particular is you notice Bino changed it up between the two fights. Um, and that's something that is a sign of a really good fighter. Is he won the first fight in that aggression and tried being aggressive again. It didn't pan out, and then he does this, which is he catches that block and then is able to step in, catch that outside block, and then return. Like I said, chef's kiss.
Yeah, catching the arm trade of body for arm.
I don't even think he trades the arm. He just catches that clean outside block, and at that point, you know, he was in such a good position. If he lost that, I would have been surprised.
Turrick Finn versus Spartan. Spartan, I believe, coming from South Central Kentucky. Turrick Finn from west of the Mississippi, Missouri, St. Louis area, maybe.
This is gonna be an interesting fight. You got an exiting fighter, a picky fighter, and someone who likes to be wily. We see him leading with that offhand, trying to bait out a shot. Steps in, loses the arm. Looks like exiting out. They're doing a really good job of trying to maintain an advantageous range. Spartan is probably reaching a little bit more than he should be, and he does get that fadeaway. I was about to say it's a solid fadeaway shot on Spartan. Now Spartan is still being a little aggressive after losing that first engagement, and it costs him.
So in this is the end of the first fight here. That's the shot that Spartan picks up his other arm on that fading shot right above the elbow there. And then the second one, I don't know if he catches his
solid outside block.
He catches.
Oh, yeah,
no, I think
the hand.
Yeah.
Good arm block.
And then the follow
comes
through
back
the leg.
in.
Yeah. Nice. Feyne versus Boromir.
So one thing that I've noticed about Boromir's fighting is he's very heavy on that lead foot, and his shoulders tend to go past that toe. And I don't know if it's a fighting style choice, but it forces him into a very committal movement, and looks like Feyne picks up on that relatively quickly and just goes for easy arm blocks and finishing kills, double taps.
Yeah, your more experienced fighters, and I don't know how experienced Boromir is. This is first time I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and playing with him. Feyne, having extensive knowledge of the game, I'm sure is watching these fights as they're unfolding.
Yeah, and so you see how high that lead foot comes up, and he's rocking his body back and forth. Shifting your weight that much means that you're going to be a lot slower to respond to a lot of the footwork. You can have some variations. I tend to be a little heavy on my back foot, but the second I see my opponent move, I shift back into a 60-40, depending on which direction I kind of want to go on what foot has the weight. If you end up with too much weight on one foot, if you try to push off on the other foot, you end up staying in place, and then you do a little pirouette.
Turrick Finn versus Boromir in this particular one.
Looks like another dropping of sword. Some people a little more generous about that than others.
Yep.
He was able to pick his sword back up and re-engage. See, steps in, gets that arm pick. He is now just trying to keep his hand moving, trying to pressure Boromir. And the step in. And this is the next fight. We're seeing Ferric exit out, get the arm block, and go up and over the top on that one.
Somebody on the sidelines offering some information that the Reeve disagreed with, so they were communicating that through.
All right, we see this jumpiness from him. It catches a lot of fighters off guard, and the arm block to double tap. It's the bread and butter of a lot of people in Amp Guard. I cross game a lot. Arm blocks aren't always as popular in Beldag. It's getting more popular as single blue is becoming more common, but one of the culture differences is specialization. A lot of people don't really move off of what they prefer to fight with, so you start seeing some mistakes or weak areas get shown a little in specialization. A lot of board fighters are able to be a little more overcommittal just because you have that huge defensive area. But when you drop down in a single sword, you get one mistake, and that's your offhand. You get your offhand arm block, and then the rest you have to be on it. You got to block with that good hand and make sure your shots land. Bino versus Feyne is going to be a really good matchup. Both solid fighters. We see them trying to maintain this range. Feyne trying to bait out some shots with some footwork and movement. Gets a little static, and Bino goes up and over the top after an inside fake. Jumping in and out, like I said, trying to get someone to commit. And it looks like Bino wins that on the outside block and under.
Back this one up here. I got my marker in the wrong place. Taking a look at this first exchange. Looks like a straight whiff, as we called it before.
Yep.
On the Molinet from Feyne, and then an underneath stab there from Bino. I don't know. Bino called arm.
Yeah, it was on the line, right? Like if you get your fingertips in there, I'd take it. You know.
Pretty easy simo there on that one.
Yeah. So here we see both of the fighters exiting out, which you can tell that they're trying to bait something out of the opponent with their footwork, and neither liked the engagement. So they're just agree to disagree and step back out and get that reset. And that's something that, you kind of want to do in a fight. If you're not comfortable, just leave. Because then you'll end up in a position like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Bino comes in and realizes that he can get under in that exchange, and Feyne is a little too slow to react. He steps too far in, doesn't commit to a shot, and allows Bino to get a wrap shot off.
Feyne pulling back on that particular last shot. This will be the last fight. Boromir versus Spartan. Roark will come out of this one and watch the replay. I just want to tell you thanks for stopping by for the umpteenth time today. I think we've got everything right this time, so we should be good to go. We appreciate
Fingers crossed.
I know the folks at home sure appreciate your commentary. It is very good.
Much appreciated.
Let you take it out here.
So I really enjoy a lot of these fights. Single sword is one of my favorite fighting styles, just because it really does put you through the ringer. Very few mistakes are allowed, and it's an all around good way to practice. Get good at single sword, you'll get good with Florentine, sword and board, long sword, pole arm. It all translates.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you, Roark. Thank you, sir. We're going to be back with some 2-camera angle options for the actual tournament when it comes around. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. Peace. Have a good night.